On July 23, 2025, Bryan Kohberger, the former criminology PhD student, whose name had become synonymous with one of the most chilling cases in recent memory, stood before the court. The world watched as the man once obsessed with the study of crime now faced the consequences of his own actions. The courtroom was tense, every eye fixed on Kohberger as he prepared to speak. In a voice barely above a whisper, Kohberger admitted his guilt in the brutal murders of 4 University of Idaho students. The confession sent a wave of shock and sorrow through the packed courtroom, confirming the worst fears of the victims' families and friends. For months, the community had waited for answers, and now, with a few words, the case took a dramatic turn. His plea deal, negotiated behind closed doors, spared him the death penalty in exchange for life in prison, without the possibility of parole. This agreement brought a swift end to the legal proceedings, eliminating the need for a lengthy and painful public trial. The judge's gavel fell, sealing Kohberger's fate and closing the door on any hope of freedom. For the families of the victims, the sentencing was bittersweet. They were spared the agony of reliving the tragedy in court, but the abrupt conclusion left many questions unanswered. The public, too, was left in the dark, denied the details that might have brought some sense of closure or understanding. Throughout the proceedings, Kohberger remained silent and expressionless. He offered no explanation for his actions, no apology to the families, and no insight into his motives. His silence was deafening, leaving a void that no sentence could fill. The legal process ended swiftly, with the courtroom emptying almost as quickly as the verdict was delivered. Yet, for many, the story felt incomplete. The swift resolution brought legal closure, but emotional closure remained elusive. The prosecution secured a conviction, ensuring justice was served in the eyes of the law. The defense, in turn, managed to save a life by avoiding the death penalty. But in the process, the public was denied the full narrative. The details, the motives, the answers that only a trial might have revealed. As Kohberger was led away in handcuffs, escorted by law enforcement through the courthouse halls, the weight of the case lingered in the air. Sealed court records and confidential agreements kept the case's deepest secrets locked away from public view, fueling speculation and debate. The sentencing closed one chapter in this tragic story, but for many, it marked the beginning of a new search for truth. The sealed files became a symbol of the unanswered questions and the mysteries that still surrounded the case. The quest for answers was far from over. For the families, the community, and the nation, the desire to understand what happened and why remained as strong as ever. Kohberger's silence left the motive a mystery. Why did he target these students? Without a trial, prosecutors never had to reveal their theory, fueling speculation. The sealed documents may hold crucial details: how Kohberger chose the house, whether he stalked his victims, and why 2 roommates survived. The public wants to see the evidence, understand the investigation, and ensure justice was served. Transparency builds trust. Secrecy breeds suspicion. For the victims' families, answers are personal and necessary for closure. The plea deal denied them a full public accounting. Access to the files could help them piece together what happened. Their need for understanding drives the push to unseal the documents. The public's right to know is vital, but so is protecting the rights of the convicted, even after sentencing. Many documents remain sealed to preserve due process and the right to appeal. Premature release of sensitive information could jeopardize future legal proceedings. The files also contain private details about witnesses and others not charged with any crime. Unsealing without careful review could expose innocent people to harm. The court's duty is to balance transparency with fairness and privacy. Sealing is not about hiding the truth, but about protecting the integrity of the justice system. The process is slow by design, ensuring every right is respected. After sentencing, a crucial period begins for Kohberger and his legal team. Regardless of whether he accepts a plea deal or is convicted at trial, he is granted a 42-day window to file an appeal. This is a fundamental right in the justice system, ensuring that every defendant has a final opportunity to challenge the outcome of their case. The appeals window is not just a formality, it's a safeguard designed to protect against errors or injustices that may have occurred during the trial or sentencing process. This 42-day period, which in Kohberger's case will end in early September 2025, keeps the case technically open. During this time, all court records and evidence remain sealed from public view. The countdown is closely monitored by both the defense and prosecution, as any action taken within this window can dramatically alter the course of the case. The right to appeal is enshrined in law and has been repeatedly affirmed by the Supreme Court. It serves as a vital check on the judicial process, allowing higher courts to review decisions for fairness, legal errors, or new evidence that could impact the verdict. If any documents or evidence were released to the public before this window closes, it could jeopardize the fairness of future proceedings. Sensitive information could influence public opinion, taint potential jurors, or even impact the strategies of both sides if a new trial is ordered. That's why the court must exercise patience and caution, waiting until the 42-day period has fully expired before considering the unsealing of records. This ensures that the defendant's rights are fully protected and that the legal process remains above reproach. If an appeal is filed within this window, the stakes become even higher. Public release of evidence or sensitive documents could compromise the fairness of appellate review and potentially undermine the integrity of any future proceedings. Even after the 42-day window closes, the legal process doesn't necessarily end. Other post-conviction motions, such as requests for a new trial or claims of ineffective counsel, can still be filed. This ongoing possibility requires the court to remain vigilant and cautious about releasing information. The appeals window is just the first hurdle in a careful, methodical legal process designed to ensure justice is served. Every step is deliberate, with the goal of protecting the rights of all parties involved. Judges must always think several steps ahead, weighing the consequences of each decision to uphold the integrity of the justice system and maintain public trust in the courts. Once the appeals window closes, unsealing the records is a slow, meticulous process. Judge Hippler and court staff must review every document, weighing public interest against privacy and legal concerns. Both prosecution and defense can argue for or against releasing specific information. Each page is scrutinized. Does it endanger someone's safety or privacy? Does it reveal sensitive investigative methods? The volume of material is immense, thousands of pages of reports, interviews, and evidence. The process is adversarial and time-consuming, but necessary for responsible transparency. Judge Hippler has warned the public to expect months of review. The court's priority is to get it right, not just to get it done. On July 24, 2025, the Moscow Police Department released hundreds of pages from their investigation. These were not court-sealed files, but police records made public on a city website. Each document was reviewed and redacted to protect sensitive information. The release was a response to public demand for answers and a step toward transparency. The files offered new details about the investigation, witness interviews, and the crime scene. This partial reveal filled some gaps left by the absence of a trial. The process highlighted the complexity and care required for disclosure. The public got new information, but the full story would emerge slowly. The newly released police files offered a chilling and deeply unsettling look into the crime, as well as the behavior and mindset of Bryan Kohberger both before and after the murders. These documents, which investigators had kept sealed for months, included never-before-seen witness statements, forensic reports, and detailed timelines that shed new light on the night of the attack. The files revealed not only the brutality of the crime, but also the calculated nature of Kohberger's actions and the fear that gripped the community in the aftermath. According to the files, Kohberger likely entered the victim's home through a sliding glass door at the back of the house, a detail that was pieced together from forensic evidence and witness accounts. One of the most haunting revelations was that a surviving victim reportedly heard a man's voice quietly say, "It's okay, I'm going to help you," just moments before the attack began. This chilling statement, captured in the official reports, added a new layer of horror to the already disturbing case. The autopsy summaries were especially harrowing. They showed the sheer brutality of the attacks. Xana Kernodle suffered over 50 stab wounds, while Kaylee Goncalves endured more than 20. The medical examiner's notes described defensive wounds, indicating the victims fought desperately for their lives. These findings painted a picture of violence that was both personal and relentless, shocking even seasoned investigators. The level of violence and the nature of the wounds confirmed that the attacks were not random, but deeply personal and vicious. Investigators noted the intensity of the crime scene, with evidence suggesting a struggle in multiple rooms. The files also included chilling photographs and diagrams that mapped out the sequence of events, making the horror of that night all too real. Friends and acquaintances described Kohberger as highly intelligent but socially awkward and often isolated. Several people noted a marked change in his demeanor after the murders. He became more withdrawn, avoided eye contact, and seemed preoccupied. Some recalled odd comments he made about crime and psychology, which in hindsight seemed unsettling. After the murders, Kohberger was seen with unexplained cuts and bruises on his hands and arms. When questioned, he claimed they were the result of a recent car accident, but friends and family found his explanation vague and unconvincing. The files included photographs of these injuries, which investigators believed were consistent with a violent struggle. In jail, Kohberger's behavior was described as obsessive and odd. Guards and fellow inmates reported that he developed strange routines, such as pacing for hours and meticulously organizing his cell. He rarely spoke to others, and when he did, his conversations were often disjointed or focused on obscure topics. Despite his isolation, Kohberger maintained daily phone calls with his mother. These conversations, described in the files, seemed to be his only connection to the outside world and provided a brief sense of normalcy amid the chaos. His mother, deeply worried, tried to comfort him, but investigators noted the emotional strain in their voices. When first brought in for questioning, Kohberger's police interview was notably brief. He refused to answer most questions and immediately requested a lawyer, shutting down any further discussion. This reaction was documented in the files as a sign of his awareness of the gravity of the situation. Altogether, these newly released details painted a much clearer and far more disturbing picture of the case. The files not only deepened the mystery surrounding Kohberger's motives, but also revealed the painstaking work of investigators determined to bring justice for the victims and their families. Even after review, some information will remain sealed forever. Identities of confidential informants and uncharged individuals will be protected. Grand jury proceedings and graphic crime scene materials are rarely released. The court must balance public interest with the need to protect families from further trauma. Details about police investigative techniques may also stay hidden to prevent criminals from learning law enforcement methods. Some pages will always be blacked out. Responsible transparency means some secrets remain. The public will get a fuller picture, but never the complete, unedited story. The Kohberger case highlights the tension between public access and the integrity of justice. The system is designed to be cautious, not secretive, ensuring fairness for all involved. Sealing documents protects the rights of the accused, witnesses, and victims' families. The process of unsealing is slow, governed by legal timelines and careful review. Partial releases, like the police files, show how transparency and privacy can coexist. Justice is a process, not a single event. The search for truth continues within legal boundaries. Ultimately, the law aims for transparency, but always with fairness and dignity at its core.